Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Cordon, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host, Callum Duncan. Thank you so much for joining me for the final episode of our Ashes podcast series. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who has watched these episodes. I hope you've made them part of your day. And if you've found us during the Ashes series, I hope you'll stick around for future content on the podcast. Well, today, England began at 8 for 302, and it was Mitchell Starc who took the final 2 wickets for Australia to bowl England out. Jacob Bethel departing for 154, and then Mitchell Starc taking care of Josh Tongue relatively quickly. Australia chased the runs 5 for 165. If we are looking at the Australian batting card today, I think Australia definitely made it harder for themselves than it needs to be. There were some dismissals that I just thought were extremely unnecessary in the scheme of things. Obviously, there was another Snicko controversy, and we'll talk about that in a second. But let's talk about Jake Weatherald. He looked good at points today for 34, but just got out at the worst possible time. Got out last over before lunch. I genuinely think it's a 50-50 chance whether he plays Test cricket again. The only thing that's potentially in Jake Weatherald's favour in regards to that is there's not really that many openers who are coming through. And I think it genuinely depends on what Cricket Australia decides to do with Travis Head. Now that Usman Khawaja has retired from Test cricket and international cricket as a whole, there is an opportunity to move Travis Head back down to number 5. I would be open, to pardon the pun, I would be keen to have Travis Head opening the batting in Australian conditions, subcontinental conditions, potentially South African conditions, but I wouldn't open with him in a place like England. So whether Australia wants to just find a specialist opener who can perform in all places around the world, and I'm sure if Trav maybe tightened up parts of his technique, he might be able to play the new moving ball better in a place like England or even South Africa. But at the same time, if he's going to be opening on some of these spicy pitches, I do think that there is a chance that he's keen to stay at the top of the order, and Cricket Australia and the coaching staff are keen for him to remain at the top of the order. If it was me, I'd probably move him back to 5. I think we've had the luxury with Travis Head that this has been a pretty poor English attack. Our next major test series is against South Africa in South Africa. Rabada, Jansen, Ngidi, Unrick Norkia, if he's fit and available. They're not going to give him the free balls like Bryden Cast and Matthew Potts were doing in this game. So that's something to consider. I think Jake Weatherald certainly has some talent. I've been lucky enough to watch him for a number of years when he played for South Australia. But I think it's a genuine 50-50 chance because he just gets out in that same way. And when you are at international level and you can get your front pad blown off for fun, as we've seen the English bowlers do in this series, then I think look, can he fix his technique? Absolutely. But I just think it is a cause of concern at the moment. Travis had 29. Obviously batted positively, tried to get the game done nice and quickly. Marnus got himself in again and just ran himself out when there was no need to do it. I don't think Marnus is under a super amount of pressure for his place, but at the same time, he hasn't done anything to cement himself in this team long term. If he had converted one of these two, well, particularly the first innings, if he had gone on and converted that innings into of 48 into 100 or 150 or something like that, we're not having any doubts about Marnus Labuschagne potentially going to play in South Africa. But at the same time, it's not a massive amount of players who are banging down the door to bat at number 3. Nathan McSweeney's one of them, but I don't know how Cricket Australia views Nathan McSweeney as a potential successor in that number 3 position after his efforts opening last summer, but we'll have to wait and see. Steve Smith, he actually got a really good ball from Will Jacks. That one spun sharply. There was a gap between bat and pad, so potentially Smith could have defended that ball a little bit better, but I still think it was a pretty good delivery from Will Jacks, and he got some nice turn. Khawaja out for a low score. Look, it's not the way he probably would have wanted to go out, but I think it was nice that he got to leave the ground by himself and have that moment. Sure, hitting the winning runs and walking off would have been the best possible way that he could have ended his career. But I think he got a fantastic standing ovation. He's been a fantastic servant of Australian cricket. The way that he's been able to come back into this team after getting dropped in 2019 and then coming back in for Travis Head during that 2021-22 Ashes series. The way that he's conducted himself over the last 4 years, I think, has been great. Look, he was probably lucky to continue to be in the side, being 38 and being an opener, but I think it was just with losing David Warner, we really struggled to fill one opening position. We would have struggled even more if we had to fill 2 of them. So, in quick succession. So, I think he's played a good role for Australian cricket, potentially with Travis Head staying up the top and what happens with Weatherald or Renshaw. It would be very interesting to see. But Usman Khawaja, I hope he's not lost to the game. I hope he stays involved with coaching or commentating because I think he's a great role model for Muslim cricketers who are wanting and multicultural cricketers who are wanting to be part of the Australian cricketing setup. So hopefully the game does not lose someone like Usman Khawaja. Cameron Green and Alex Carey steadied the ship, got Australia home. I do want to talk about Mitchell Starc. I didn't touch on it in the bowling side of things, but he took 3 for 72 today. One of his better test matches in Sydney. Generally, he's got a much poorer record at the SCG than he does pretty much every other ground in Australia. And 31 wickets of the series. I thought that was absolutely outstanding. I think it was right that he was named player of the series. It was it was a coin toss between Travis and Mitchell, but I think the way that Mitchell carried that bowling attack without Cummins, without Hazelwood at the beginning of the series, obviously, great support in Scott Boland, and I think it was just a remarkable effort that Scott Boland and Mitchell Starc were able to play all 5 test matches. But Mitchell Starc's contributions with the bat, I think that's the thing that was able to get him over the line. 50 in Adelaide and a 50 in Brisbane. That 50 in Brisbane was particularly important in the context of that game as well, allowing Australia to bowl under lights with the new ball. Just wanted to touch on the Snicko controversy today with Jake Weatherald. Look, I can some people might say this is the Australian bias in me. From what I saw, that's not conclusive evidence to overturn a decision, I think. Same if it had been given out by the umpire on field and Jake Weatherald decided to review it, I don't think there would have been enough to overturn it the other way as well. So I think they've just decided to go with the umpire's call here. I think that's fair enough in the scheme of things, but this does come back to the discussions that we had in Adelaide. I think we need to remove real-time Snicko and go with Ultra Edge. Ultra Edge is basically used with every other cricketing board. So I think that there needs to be consistency across all ICC test matches, no matter where they are played, what countries are playing, because we shouldn't have the technology creating more confusion. And I can understand why Brydon Cast got angry. It's been a tough tour for him. I thought he bowled poorly today, though. Seriously, like the gap between Brydon Cast's best and worst is just so far apart. Whereas someone like Michael Neser, the gap between his best and worst, probably this much. Look, I think Brighton Cast can be a fantastic bowler for England. I don't think he's an opening bowler. I think that's abundantly clear from an English point of view. I think they like him because he gives heart and soul, and he's got something about him, and he can bowl that just Jaffa delivery that, knocks someone like Travis Head over, as we saw in Melbourne. But he's also capable of bowling some real short and wide shit that can get carved away. So I'm not surprised today that he went at 8 runs and over. I thought him having a crack at Hassan Raza, the umpire, was probably a bridge too far. And I thought Ben Stokes handled the situation well, moved Cast on, talked to the umpire. Like, unfortunately, England had nothing to play for today. I think they did well to take 5 wickets, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I also think part of that was Australia just trying to wrap the game up as quickly as possible and get off the field. So, yeah, technology needs to be improved, but I thought it was a great test match pitch. Adam Lewis, the groundsman, certainly needs a lot of credit. I think that we've seen the pitch at the SCG probably be one of the worst grounds in Australia in the last maybe 10 years. It's either a flat road or it's just a monster green seamer. And I think this test match really found the happy medium. I still think Australia made a horrible call at the beginning of the game, not playing a spinner. Imagine Todd Murphy. Like, if Nathan Lyon's fit and available, Nathan Lyon's playing this game. But just because it's Todd Murphy, they either clearly don't rate Todd, or Smith doesn't like him, or there's some other reason why Todd's not playing, because I don't think you can read a wicket that badly to begin with and go, oh, that's not going to spin. I thought that was particularly interesting. So the big question from an English point of view, and I'll do a overall end of series video in the coming days, and if you have any questions that you'd like answered, please make sure that you send them in. Do I think Stokes, McCullum and Rob Key survive? I think they all survive. You don't have an option in this team to captain other than Ben Stokes. You could probably go to Harry Brook, maybe a fraction early in his career, considering he's only just started captaining England in the white ball. I also think his batting's too irresponsible at times to be the captain of your Test cricket team. Look, agree that Harry Brook has a tremendous amount of talent, but I think we saw when England were under pressure, Stokes was just willing to soak up pressure and take his time at the crease. I think he batted 240 balls in Adelaide or something like that for his 83. Nearly 200 deliveries for 50 at the Gabba. I don't think there's that kind of adaptability and leadership quality in Harry Brook's game at the moment. Obviously, Joe Root's not going to want to do it. Joe Root gave up the captaincy the last time that England were beaten down under. And there's no other options to captain this team. So realistically, Stokes has to keep going and probably have his... I think that Stokes will target the 2027 Ashes as his swan song from Test cricket. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think his body can handle it that much longer, but will push as much as he can to make it through the next 2 years for England. Do I think McCullum survives? Absolutely, I think McCullum survives. His contract until the 2027 World Cup. Recently started coaching England's white ball team as well, so to pay him out would be extremely expensive. Some people have suggested that they could pay him out as the red ball coach and have him continue as the white ball coach. I think that's just way too messy of an option from an English point of view. I think Stokes just has to adapt the game plan, and I think they just need to find players in county cricket who are more adaptable, more versatile. Look, I think Ben Duckett's a great cricketer. He's had a rubbish series. He's averaged 20 with the bat. And Zach Crawley, he showed that adaptability a little bit in this series. But once again, 270 runs at 27. You're probably asking more from your openers. Look, I'm a park cricketer. I'd be killing to average 27 if I'm being perfectly honest, even though I don't play anymore. But from a Test cricket point of view, that's not enough. And Zach's probably going to... well, he's played 60 test matches and averages 31, which is not acceptable in my opinion. And he's still lucky to be playing test cricket this far into his career, considering like the treatment of someone like Ollie Pope, who's got a very similar record. Rob Key, I think Rob Key's probably the most vulnerable of the three of them, just because it's a bit more of an admin role. But I do think there needs to be more respect levelled at county cricket. There was comments from Darren Lehman on Willow Talk and ABC Radio that as a coach of a county team, he doesn't even know who the selectors are from an English point of view. He knows that Luke Wright's a selector and that's it. But he's never seen a selector at a county game for Northamptonshire. And I think those things, and just from an English point of view, where is your Alistair Cook? Where is your Jonathan Trott type of player? The person who can soak up the deliveries and blunt a bowling attack. And look, playing aggressively in England, I do understand that a bit more because there is a ball that's got your name on it. But at the same time, when you are on a beautiful flat wicket like we saw in Adelaide, like we saw here, if it wasn't for Joe Root and Jacob Bethel, England get done by an innings easily in this game, in my opinion, because you take 160 from Root, you take 154 out of 342 and 384. That's a massive chunk of your score already. So you can't rely on Root to always bail you out of trouble. Look, what happened with Bethel in this game is absolutely spectacular from an England point of view, and it was just so refreshing to see a classy left-hander batting at number 3 who was willing to be patient and then put the bad ball away. I think Jacob Bethel shows good temperament. I don't think he's a long-term test number 3 at this stage of his career. I think he's more suited to a number 5 sort of position. But I'd love to see him continue to develop, and there's obviously no doubt that he's going to get a full English Test summer. Considering he only averages 10 in the first innings of a Test match, that is a little bit of a concern for England. But averages like 80, 87, I think, in the second innings of a Test match, which is still a very good stat, but you want first innings runs. So those are my thoughts overall about day 5. What might happen with England going forward. But I will do a full scope series review in the next few days. If you have any questions that you'd like answered on the show, please put them into the comment section and I will hope to answer them in a future video. So thank you very much for your support and we'll see you on the next video.